my name is Lindsay. I'm here from World Ocean Day for Schools with the amazing crew from MSC who are going to tell you all about their jobs. And I'm really excited to welcome Polly, Lauren, and Richard. And I'm going to ask you a whole bunch of questions because I want to understand more about what you all do and the different roles that you have within the organization. But maybe, Richard, I'm going to start with you. Can you just very quickly tell us who MSC are and what you do?
Yeah, so we're an environmental non-governmental organisation is the official kind of title for it, which means we don't make profit. We're a charity effectively, and our job is to help protect the oceans, and the way we do that is to help ending overfishing. The main tool that we have at our disposal is what we call our eco label, which is a little logo that we put on products to help consumers understand that their fish has been fished in a sustainable way. So we've thought about the impact that fishing is having on the oceans, and we try and translate that into a very, very simple logo that consumers can understand when they're buying their seafood. But we do many other things as well,
Which we're probably about to find out about. So let's start with you, Richard. Can you tell us about what your job is within the Marine Stewardship Council?
Yeah, so I'm the head of marketing in the global team. So we have a network of offices around the world. I sit in the kind of head office in London, and my job really basically is on one level is to promote that little blue eco label around the world and help our teams in different countries do that. But actually, the real essence of my job is to translate a very, very complex um, set of requirements that fisheries have into a very, very simple message for consumers. Consumers are incredibly busy. They're not all living by the ocean. They don't all understand the ocean. And what we try and do is to make it relevant, what we do relevant to their own lives. And particularly plates, because we see fish as food. Our label is on food products, as in seafood and fish, and so we have to make it relevant to the people that consume that. So that's in essence what my job is, I think.
Nice. And what about your pathway into this work? Was it a straight linear one? Was it a windy
No,
one?
it's been really, really wiggly and contrived. So I started off. I've always been interested in geography and the oceans. I love sailing and canoeing and diving myself. And I went through my school career and then my university career studying environmental sciences. And I eventually ended up doing a master's degree at Imperial College in a subject called environmental technology. So it looked at environmental remediation, so remediating environmental problems that humans have caused. And then I came out of university and I got offered a job in marketing, and I did all sorts of strange stuff. I marketed car brands, I marketed wine, coffee, for about 15 years, and always wanted to get back to where I started. So I then worked in ethical coffee brands. I then went and worked for the Fair Trade label, which is a label that concentrates on the kind of human and social sides of food production. And then I eventually got round to working for the MSC, and I've been there for 10 years now. So, and I absolutely adore it. So it's kind of finally channeled all of my interests into something, kind of joined up and relevant to me.
I love that. I love that. What does, if such a thing exists, what does an average day look like for you?
Uh, there is no average day, actually. So I'll try and answer that by saying, um, 50% of my job is dealing with other marketing colleagues around the world and helping them do the best job they can in their own countries. So promoting the label in Germany or China or Australia, for example. And 50% of my job is working on kind of head office product projects and looking after and building our brand and our messaging to consumers. So we're a kind of global network, and I spend a lot of my time helping service that network, but also looking at the kind of strategic direction that our marketing and our messaging goes in.
And if someone wanted to either start in a career in marketing but aligned with ocean conservation or transition into it, what skills do they need?
So my area of work, communication, is everything. I would say, a lot of our work now is in social media and digital marketing. I think there's so many growth areas in that, in terms of content production, in terms of targeting consumers in the right way, using the money that we have for marketing in the right way to get to the right kind of people. All of those are really useful skills. I think there's a big creative side, and certainly in a world of emerging AI, I think the creative industries are well placed to keep strengthening, and human input is really, really important in these processes. So that's I think probably how I'd answer that question.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Lauren, I'm going to come to you next.
Perfect.
Can you tell us a little bit about your job?
Sure. So I am the commercial manager here in the MSC in the UK and Ireland team. And really my job is all about helping protect the ocean and making sure there's lots of sustainable fish and seafood for consumers and businesses. So I work with supermarkets, restaurants, seafood companies, brands, suppliers, to help them make better choices about the fish that they source and sell. So helping businesses, source sustainable seafood in a way that's better for the ocean and for future generations as well. Really a big part of my job is also helping people understand why sustainable fishing is important, so we don't take too many fish from the ocean and can help protect fish stocks for future generations. And some of your listeners, they might have seen the blue MSC Eco label on things like fish fingers, tuna, or cans of tuna, frozen fish in the supermarkets. That shows the seafood has been sustainably sourced, and that's a big part of my role, is making sure there's lots of labelled products available for consumers to choose, so they can make ocean friendly choices.
Nice. Ocean friendly choices. I love that. Can you tell us how you ended up doing this job? I'm curious, is it like Richard? Was it like a wiggly path, or was yours a straight one?
It was sort of straight. I mean, when I was younger, I was, looking at two options. I loved playing sport. I played lots of team sports, but very seriously. So that was potentially one route. But then I'd always been very passionate about the ocean and the environment. And I think from a young age, I knew I wanted to do something that helped protect it. I was a big fan, as many people are, of the David Attenborough documentaries. And I think that was the route I chose. So I did study marine biology at university because I was, fascinated by the ocean and everything that lived, around it, underneath it, and also the challenges that it faces, and, how could I make a difference? And so during my time at university, I realised that I could have a really big impact in sort of, sustainable fisheries, by helping supermarkets, businesses, companies choose fish that's caught in a way that is sustainable, and also by giving people the choice to buy more sustainable seafood when they shop. And that's what led me to do the job that I did today. I've been with the MSC 10 years now, so it was not long after I finished university that I applied for this job and got it. So I've been here a long time, but I stay because I love it and I feel like I'm really making an impact with my work.
Wow, that's so cool. What does a day in the life of Lauren look like when you're working?
So every day is a little bit different, so it's nice and exciting, and that's like one of the things I like most about my job. Some days I'm talking to supermarkets, brands, suppliers about how they can source sustainable fish and support fisheries. I also get to work on fun projects and campaigns that help people learn about sustainable seafood and make those ocean friendly choices when they shop. Some days I'm in meetings, some days I'm planning, new ideas in my team. Then sometimes I have more boring days where I'm analysing data. But really a big part of my job is helping lots of different people work together to protect the ocean. But occasionally I do get to do exciting things, maybe like go to a fish market very early in the morning. Often I might come away smelling quite interesting, but it's very exciting to see. But then even more excitingly, sometimes I get to speak on the radio or TV. I was on the BBC a couple of months ago, helping people learn about why protecting the ocean is so important. So my job is very varied, but it keeps me on my toes, and it's very exciting.
I love that. And if someone wanted to do what you do, I mean, one of the things that I've already picked up on from what you're saying is like there's a lot of communication in what you're doing and kind of collaboration and connecting with the right people. But what other skills do you think are important for your role?
So I think I need to be good at talking and listening. I work with lots of different people, so I need to explain ideas clearly, but also really understand what other people need. So those are two key skills that I need. Teamwork is a big one because protecting the ocean isn't something that I can just do by myself.
Yeah.
It only works when lots of people work together. So I work very closely with Richard and with Polly. We have different roles, but really we come together with one shared objective, which is to help ensure, there are plentiful fish stocks for the future. I think problem solving is also really important. There are often challenges working at an organisation like the MSC. But then, with that, I need to be organised as well. I do lots of different projects, campaigns, meetings running at the same time. So have to be very organised. And I think finally, it really helps to care about the ocean and want to make a difference, because that's what keeps you motivated when things get busy or stressful. I genuinely care about my job, as do Richard and Polly. So we want to make a difference, and that keeps us going, knowing that we are making a difference.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Polly,
Hi.
last but not least, tell us about your job.
So I'm the head of standard implementation at the Marine Stewardship Council. So I sit within our science and standards department, which is the team working on developing and sort of day-to-day management of the fisheries and chain of custody standards that are used to support the uptake of the eco-label that Richard has spoken about. So basically fisheries all over the world will choose to be assessed against the standard, and there'll be a set of auditors that will go out and look at the fishery, and they'll consider how well the kind of the population of the stock is doing. So is there enough left over in the ocean to regenerate and to replenish the stock? They'll look at environmental impacts, like are they incidentally catching other animals such as dolphins or birds, or are they having an impact on the habitats that the fishery might interact with? And then the third thing is that they'll look at the management of all of that. So how well the fishery is kind of managed for all of those things, and how responsive that management is, and how they make sure that things aren't going wrong in the fishery. So my team is focused on the sort of rollout and uptake of the standard. So every few years we'll do a refresh of our fishery standard, and we'll do a big review process, and we'll talk to lots of different people. We'll release a new document that has these new sets of requirements, and fisheries will then have to start using that. We have had some challenges lately with our standard, and so my role has been very much focused on supporting the way that our standard works, making sure that we're making the changes where necessary, a lot of kind of stakeholder engagement on being sure what the problems are, how we can fix them, and how we make sure that our standard is actually delivering on our intent. Without a kind of working standard, without something that people can understand and can apply effectively, we don't have a standard that works, and we're not able to drive the change that we know the Marine Stewardship Council is really capable of. So a very niche job, but I love it.
It's really interesting listening to the three of you, because it's like these three different lenses that you're looking, at your eco level through these three different lenses. It's really cool. So is this your the first role? A little bit like Lauren, did you come into this straight from uni, or have you done other stuff? Like, was it a really obvious choice of what you wanted to do?
It definitely wasn't obvious, but I'm so kind of thankful that the path took me down the route it did. And I think that's been something that's been very helpful for me to keep in my mind through my career, is that it may not always go the expected route, and that's okay. And actually to kind of let that happen. So I definitely grew up loving the oceans like others, kind of, loving David Attenborough, and I grew up in Scotland, so really amazing access to beautiful beaches. And to be honest, it was fairly late on in my teens that I realized that marine science and kind of understanding the oceans was something that was possible as a career. I'd always actually wanted to be a vet, and gradually over time, I kind of began to be more and more curious about our oceans and understanding just how little we know about them. And even now, many years on, that's still the case. And I think that's what makes the career pathways in this role, in this sort of sector, super interesting. So I went to university and I did marine science. So I did, kind of full degree on that. And I went and worked for a few years in the northeast of Scotland, working on sea trout and salmon management. So there are two species that live in between rivers and the ocean, so traveling between the two. So a really interesting life history, lots of kind of wider ecosystem management, lots of talking to fishers that work and live in the area and visit the area. So a really kind of interesting kind of dynamic working there. And then I actually got a job after that working at one of the auditing companies. So like I said, we use a third-party system, which means we have like different auditors that work outside the MSC doing the actual assessments of fisheries looking to gain MSC certification to make sure that there's that kind of third degree and a bit of a separation there. So I worked for 5 years working for one of those companies that do auditing all across the seafood supply chain. So not just the Marine Stewardship Council certification, but other seafood standards such as the Aquaculture Stewardship Council. So really interesting to kind of get that full array and dynamic of all the different sort of seafood production systems all over the world. It was absolutely fascinating kind of understanding what was going on in various different places and being kind of in the depth of really understanding what's in these fisheries, and then having a big responsibility in terms of making the decision that a fishery is worthy of MSC certification. It's a really big undertaking for any fishery to do. So it's a big responsibility that we make sure that what has the label is actually sustainable and credible, so that consumers can have that confidence when they buy their product. And I had a really exciting master's doing, which was more like historical ecology, which again was quite fisheries focused, but an amazing opportunity. I did some incredible travel, including a 8-day boat trip from Cape Town to a tiny island in the South Atlantic called Ascension Island. And again, that was very unexpected, just kind of the opportunity presented itself and it was too good to pass up. And then 5 years ago, I started working here at the Marine Stewardship Council, and I was on the fisheries team doing sort of policy development specifically. But a couple of years ago, I shifted into this implementation role, and that's been super interesting and really great to kind of work with so many colleagues all over the world and stakeholders too.
Wow, what an interesting journey to get to where you are now. What does an average day look like for you?
I mean, like the others, every day is different, which is one of the things I love about the Marine Stewardship Council. You know, you never really know what you're going to come into. For me, it's usually a lot of stakeholder interaction. So we have a lot of external sort of companies and groups that are interested in what the Marine Stewardship Council is doing. They range from fisheries that are engaged in the process or looking to be certified. It could be other non-governmental organizations that might be interested in what we're doing. It can be some of the assessors that are looking at the requirements and understanding them. We quite often have workshops, so a lot of kind of busy time, really getting into the weeds on what our requirements mean, how they can be clearer, how we can improve kind of what we're trying to achieve and what we're expecting fisheries to be able to do. Lots of meetings, and I get to do some very exciting travel sort of all over the world, which is wonderful. So every day is different, but I think the core theme is really that sort of stakeholder engagement, being able to listen to people and to understand what they're looking for, what they need, and how we can support them in their goal to be more sustainable.
And what skills do you need, or would someone need to do your job?
So I think, like Lauren, good listening and talking skills. I do a lot of talking. Probably everybody is a bit bored of hearing me speak. So I do a lot of talking, but I love that. That's actually sort of giving presentations, standing up in front of people is my favorite part of the job, really. That's what I really love doing, having that connection. I would say being able to really think about the big picture. So sometimes it's super hard to remember what you're trying to do. You know, we spend so much time in documents looking at sort of specific requirements and specific wording, and sometimes you have to be able to take a step back and be like, okay, remember what we're trying to do here. Remember that the big picture here is that we're trying to improve fisheries sustainability all over the world and create better oceans for everybody. So being able to kind of have that ability to step back is super important. But also knowing when you just need to really get into the technical detail and to be able to apply that to very specific situations and circumstances. So having that kind of focus and things, and like the others, just a real respect and appreciation for teams is super important, because there's so many people doing so many different things, and it's important that we all work together and we're all pushing in the same direction.
And I think it's really interesting how I think one of the things that we're trying to do with World Ocean Day for Schools is not only expand people's awareness of all the different types of jobs, but also people understanding how transferable so many skills that are really needed in the ocean conservation sector that people maybe aren't thinking about. Richard, I'm curious, when you were a kid and you're at school, and I know you said that you love sailing and diving, so I don't know what age all those things came in, but like, when you thought of jobs in ocean conservation, what came up at that age?
Yeah, so when I was at school, I generally had an ambition to go and do a degree in marine biology down in a place called Plymouth University, because that was the kind of most famous one in my area of the world to do that. And it was inspired by diving programs and growing up by the sea and David Attenborough all together. I think I've always had a love of nature. And so I think I was quite inspired by the idea that my university would be doing some diving and doing fun stuff like that, not just sitting in a lecture hall. And that didn't come about. I went off in a slightly different path, but it always works out. And I think if you're, I think speaking with Polly and Lauren here, I think what we've got in common is we were all passionate about ending up doing something like this. And Polly is a big science brain. I'm more of a kind of communications expert. But we've all ended up doing something that pulls in the same direction, and it's exciting to work with other people. I always describe MSc as like a big university. It's got lots of different disciplines and skill sets and people with different interests, but you all kind of come together in one common place. So it's certainly I would strongly recommend anyone that's got a passion for this kind of thing to pursue that.
Yeah, we need you. The ocean needs you. Lauren, your work and your kind of path so far, has it changed? Has your job changed the way you see and feel about the ocean? Or has it made you feel stronger about anything?
I think, it definitely changed the way I, feel and see, different challenges in the ocean. I think being in this job, you are presented with the reality of the challenges that we face. And my job over the last 9-10 years made me realise just how important the ocean is for all of us. About sort of 10 years ago, I didn't really eat much fish, which is fine. No, dietary choices are a very personal preference, but there are many people around the world that rely on fish and seafood as a primary source of protein. It gives us food. It helps us. Millions of people around the world with jobs, and the ocean even helps control our climate and the air that we breathe. And I didn't realise how interlinked these things were 20 years ago. So coming into this job, it's like, wow, this is really important. We need to be able to protect it. I think it's also made me understand that our ocean resources, they're not endless. We need to look after them carefully. If too many fish are caught, if the habitats aren't managed, it can affect sea life and people too. But the positive thing that I've seen in my role is that people, businesses, and scientists, industry stakeholders, shoppers, when they're out in the supermarkets, we all have a part to play, and we can all really make a difference and help protect the ocean for the future. It's not just one person. It's a team effort, really.
Yeah. And I think what you said there is really interesting, because I think for a lot of us who work in ocean conservation, on one side, as we progress in our career, we learn more and more about the challenges, which can be quite daunting. But on the flip side of that, you are working alongside amazing people and seeing all the solutions and seeing what's being done. So it kind of, hopefully, on a good day, it balances out. Polly, I'm going to come to you for the last question. What is one of the most surprising things about your job?
That's a great question. I mean, there's so much. I think one of the biggest things that surprises me is just how much there is still to learn. I often say this to people that are just starting out in the kind of MSc world, or even just in the kind of marine science space, you literally learn something new every single day. And even though I've been involved in the sort of Marine Stewardship Council world for 10 years and in this job for 5 years, I still learn something new all the time. And I'm still learning things from other people, from other colleagues, from all of the people that I work with, sort of in the stakeholder community. And I think there's a kind of expectation that you start a job and you're in a career and you kind of get, you get comfortable, and that you kind of know everything, and like, okay, I'm in a career now, let's go, like we can, it's all easy, I know everything. And the reality is that I think in most jobs, but especially in this space, in the marine science space, we are learning so much all the time, and there are so many passionate, amazing people out there doing so much good work, that we are constantly learning new things, about specific situations for the MSc standards, specific situations for the way that consumers think about things. And I just think what a privilege that is, to be in a position where every day at work I know that it's going to be something new and something exciting, and that feels really special.
Wow, that's right. Really, really cool.
I'm desperate to just quickly answer that question as well. Can I chip in?
Yes, go ahead.
I think just generally, I think we're probably, I hope Polly and Lauren will agree with this. I'm always surprised at how much you have to roll your sleeves up in a job. So, there's a perception that you sit in your own job and you do your own things, but actually, Lauren's been on the streets of East London recording social media videos. Polly finds herself in fisheries talking to fishermen and trying to navigate different languages all the time. I've been cycling across an island in Netherlands trying to get a camera crew to film a fishing boat. There's all sorts of things. So I think don't underestimate how much you have to roll your sleeves up in a job and pick up things that you're not necessarily in your own comfort zone as well.
But that's how you learn different things as well. I, like you said, Richard, I never thought I'd be doing some of the things I'm doing today. 10 years ago, I'd have been like, what, you want me to do this? Or you want me to be on TV or go on the radio? Oh, that sounds really scary. But now I welcome those opportunities. I'm like, right, get me on the TV, let's go. How can I talk about this a bit more? So yeah, it's so like invigorating, I think, to continuously be able to learn something different. I learned from Polly, I learned from Richard. It's very exciting.
I think it's really, I think that almost like one of the common threads between the three of you is like how diverse and varied your roles are, and kind of how it, they obviously are connected to each other, and there's lots of areas where you're working together, but just, there is no such thing as an average day for any of you, and you all seem to be wearing multiple hats, doing lots, like going off on lots of interesting adventures. So I'm wondering if anyone's listening to this and thinking, okay, this all sounds amazing, but I want to learn about the Marine Stewardship Council. Where do they go? Where can they find out more? Lauren, I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's fine. I wasn't sure we go to Richard for the comms hat, but we have our website, msc.org. That's our main global website. And then you can, if you want to go to the UK website, msc.org/UK. We have Instagram, we have Facebook, I think we have TikTok as well. So many important and informative resources on our website. Some videos on YouTube as well. So have a browse, a bit of light reading, and obviously we're always happy to answer any questions that anyone has as well.
And I'll add to that, LinkedIn as well. So as you get into the jobs world, LinkedIn is an amazing way to kind of learn about what kind of careers are out there. It has all the kind of job adverts that we ever put up for the MSc as well. But also just by linking with people in a field that you're interested in, you find out what they're doing day to day, because that's what we kind of try to post on our LinkedIn profiles.
Awesome. And I think you also have some incredible educational resources that teachers can access to. So they will find all of those on your website. And of course, looking out for the blue tick when you're in the supermarket. That's kind of like the easiest thing people can do to support the work that you guys are doing. So thank you so much. Really, really appreciate spending time with you all and loved learning about your jobs. And happy World Ocean Day.
Happy World Ocean Day.
Thank you. Happy World Ocean Day.
Bye.
Happy World Ocean Day. Thank you.